most famous, I think, for The Squid and the Whale. A director and a writer and a director. His film Funny Pages, we're showing on Wednesday. He's also... You did direct that one, right? Funny Pages? Okay. He's also a comedian. He's a film archivist, a collector. He collects cartoons. He does. But I also found out today you're a comedian, a ventriloquist, a magician, and a sword swallower.
None of these things professionally.
Are you sure? And he used to hammer nails into your nose until your parents made you stop?
Where did you hear this?
This was on a podcast.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
Well, we're not here to talk about you.
No. That's none of that.
Tell us who we're here to talk about.
Joseph Cates and this fantastic film.
And what did Joe Cates do on this movie?
Seemed to direct it, put it all together. I imagine he cast it.
He did cast it. He was the producer.
Yeah.
It was
That's right.
It was his project from
You
beginning.
want to sit down?
Yeah, but we didn't have the table for the water.
Oh, for the water.
Yeah.
Well, there are solutions.
Okay, now we'll
Get this off. Yeah.
So tell us about, Joe Cates is a legend in television. He didn't do much in movies.
Yes, he had this quite a really long illustrious career in television, and yet he did this sleazy little film. And
This was not his first sleazy little film, though.
No, well, he did a tamer film in 1960 for Warner Brothers, or at least it was purchased by Warner Brothers. Another independent film. This was not obviously distributed by a studio, but
Tell us the title, though.
Girl of the Night, which is based on a novel by a psychologist.
Which you can buy in one of those
Greenwald.
shops in Times Square.
Yeah, did you know, by the way,
Yeah.
that the adult bookstores in Times Square not only carried such a variety of nudist magazines and all of this stuff, but some of the books, it seemed that Jan Murray's character seems psychosexual. Like, it would be strange to pick up the new copy of French Frills and Nudist Colony Weekly and psychosexual behavior and you or whatever.
I have my own story about wandering into one of those shops when I was 12, but I won't tell it now.
Did they have those novels? Did they have, Tropic
Then
Cancer?
I'll tell my story quickly, okay?
Please,
When I was 12, which is around the time of this movie, you can do the math. My parents were taking me to see a Jerry Lewis movie in Times Square. We were going to go to Radio City. I wanted to see the Jerry Lewis, and I proved wrong.
Patsy? Which one was it?
No, I think it was Boeing or something.
Oh, okay.
So I'm walking by a shop in Times Square, and there's Action Number 1 in the window, or something, very early Superman. And even at 12, I knew I had never seen a Superman comic that rare. I walked in. As soon as I walked in, the guy said, "Hey kid, you can't be in here. Get out of here."
Yeah.
And I noticed all these muscle magazines, not nudie magazines, but muscle magazines.
And you're forever transformed.
Well, I now knew what muscle magazines was a code for.
Muscle magazines.
Muscle.
Yeah, I learned it from
bodybuilding magazines.
Yeah, so I became aware of that because of that's what Pee Wee Herman was booked on. It was like he's had this big muscle magazine collection.
Well, that's
Anyway,
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was a great doc, wasn't it?
That's what I guess it was. That was what.
We're talking about a doc on Netflix, which we shouldn't be plugging. But
No, but
on Pee Wee Herman, which is terrific.
It's interesting
really
you raised the
terrific,
muscle
yeah.
magazine thing, though. I think
Yeah.
if you were gay or in the closet at this time, at least, mid-century, 50s or 60s, you'd be sort of perusing muscle magazines.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, which is
That's
why
what you had, or the paperback that he picks up. This was a new edition, I'm pretty sure. On some cuts it existed, but this was cemented in the director's cut. After he's looking at those nudist magazines, the Sal Mineo character picks up maybe a book called Beach Stud.
Beach Stud, yeah.
Yeah, gay paperback.
So you told me when you found that shot that proved that he was gay, but I think the bodybuilding would have been code enough in those days. No, I'm serious.
It's code.
It's code. To say he was gay.
It's
I think so.
code.
Plus that thrusting piston there.
Well,
Yeah.
clearly he's sexually confused.
Yeah.
He's infantilizing his sister, and we don't know what their
No.
relationship is, but it might be as bad as the relationship with his mother.
I don't think they thought it out that well.
Well, everything is alluded to that isn't completely deliberate, and But clearly this hint of necrophilia. I didn't even catch that this time that you see when he's like having this fantasy sequence in the Times Square, sleazy old Times Square, that he flashes to the image of him strangling, or he's kind of embracing Elaine Stritch's corpse.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Well, we'll get back to that because I
Sure.
have the calendar. We were the first theater to revive this.
Yeah, so
movie.
let's talk about this.
Well, let's talk about your grandfather first.
All right,
That was,
sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
Joe Cates.
Yes.
He did so many amazing things in television. I didn't know very much about him. By the way, Joe and your mom and dad were here on our opening revival in March '96, but I was out of the country.
You were out of the country,
I did,
but you booked
yeah.
him. Now, I've been researching this movie for half my life. I mean, I came to this movie when I was 13 or 14, was getting obsessed with cult film and B movies and whatnot, and sort of to discover this one, which almost felt like, busting open a treasure chest. It was like, this is like
But your granddad
the
was-
cult movie to me,
But also your grandfather was known for family entertainment on television.
Yeah.
So then you found out he was a smut peddler.
My mother has distinct memories, though, of he'd always have like a cheap paperback in his pocket. I don't think smut, but
Well, they used that word in those days. I like it so much better than porno.
yeah. But in the 70s, he'd always have like this long, Banana Republic safari jacket and with all the pockets and stuff. He'd keep his money in one pocket, and one of the pockets would always be, well, I don't know, maybe there was smut in there. I'm not sure.
So he was born in the Bronx.
Born in the Bronx, he was an usher before going off to the war, flying, rescue planes. He worked as an usher at the Lowe's Paradise in the Bronx.
Which still stands, by the way. The building is still there, the sign is still there. It was one of the most famous atmospheric theaters in America.
Yes, you can actually look this up. It's a really interesting history. There was a bunch of theaters at that time that were built. Now we're going to go.
Yeah,
down
I
the
mean,
road.
at Lowe's Valencia, their jewels and
They
Lowe's
painted
King.
it into this
Yes.
sort of Italian
But Lowe's
atmosphere
Paradise
scape.
is very special.
That theater, though, what's interesting about it, in the time where, live entertainment, sort of the death knell of vaudeville and crossed over with, a lot of these film theaters still had live performance.
Well,
and they
all
would
the-
do both
all
things.
the-
That was one of those theaters.
Well, all the Lowe's palaces, all the Lowe's theaters at
Mhm.
one time had vaudeville. Started out as a vaudeville chain, but vaudeville was a regular part of movie going and downtown movie going on Broadway into like the early 1950s. You'd get a big ad,
Yeah.
and
And so it's his interest, I think, when he was young was cowboys and Indians, and I think the Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers films, and some of these variety type movies. I imagine because he ended up in variety television, and which is an extension of the Gold Diggers of
but it's also
fill in the blank.
vaudeville.
It's also vaudeville,
Yeah.
exactly.
Ed Sullivan's show was just a revival of vaudeville.
Yes, that's right.
So he started out in television. Did he start with Dumont, which was?
You see, he started. He was kind of bounced around a little bit, but he was at Dumont and then NBC. He was doing the Cavalcade of Stars in 49, 50 around that time. So, but what's really interesting is in 47 is October 47 is when he started.
Which is
He
very
produced-
early in television.
Yeah, he met Jan Murray out of the war. They were on the GI Bill. He was taking directing classes, Joe. Jan Murray was taking acting classes. That's how they met. I thought it was a television connection because it's a TV career. But
So they
so
were
that's
close
what-
friends.
So they were close friends, and Jan Murray actually wrote all his funny dialogue in the movie. Apparently, he punched up
Is
his
it funny
dialogue.
Does he have funny dialogue?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, he's
So
pretty
I
amazing.
always thought of Jan Murray as like a real second banana. I mean, not a top comedian. He was on television a lot.
Game show MC.
Well, he had one game show called Treasure Hunt, but he was a comedian too, like a low-rent
Yeah.
Jerry Lewis.
So here's what,
Yeah.
47, the first broadcast my grandfather somehow got into, the Comet Candy Company of Brooklyn sponsored his first television broadcast. I think it's called When You Wish Upon a Star, something
You're
like
talking
that.
about Jan Murray.
No,
Oh,
my
your
grandfather. The first variety program he put together was this dance contest hosted by his Teenage Sweetheart in the Bronx, Bess Meyerson, who was like a beauty pageant winner.
Well, she was the first Jewish Miss America.
People know.
Later, big scandal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Produced this. It was with I can't remember the name of the dance studio, but it was kind of like an early mongrel dance studio that taught all sorts of different, international dance. It was all cultures of dance were pursued and taught. During this broadcast, a young black kid and a white girl shared a dance, and there were a lot of complaints that were filed against.
But this was a local show.
This was local television.
Yeah.
And I found this article from like maybe a month later about all people were upset by this, and he wrote, like everyone has we have the democratic right to put this on television as much as you have the democratic right to change the channel, and all these complaint letters, for the network are going in the trash. But that was the beginning of his long career in variety television. He kept variety show and the television special a staple of television all through the 70s.
He produced the Tonys. He won a couple of Emmys.
Yes.
We better fast forward with career highlights, otherwise we're not
Quickly
gonna get to the sex
though, Jackie Gleason, he discovered, put him as the cavalcade of stars.
And in 1951,
moved to the Jackie Gleason show and designed the set of the Honeymooners, the sketch show, the set based on his Coldwater Flat in the Bronx.
but the Honeymooners was originally part of the Cavalcade of Stars, which
Yes.
Joe produced.
Cast Art Carney in those sketches as Ed Norton, and also cast the original for the sketches. The original Trixie was Elaine Stritch, so that's a long.
But
he was
only
very loyal.
but
to
only
people.
one episode.
Yes, one episode.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Rub it in,
because
yeah.
why is Elaine Stritch in this movie then? You answered
That
the question.
explains.
Yeah.
She talks about this movie in her great biography and says, she remembers like it's just this cold winter, this small thing. This movie, by the way, was originally designed to be no stars and sold on shock alone. You know what I mean? Like they were going to sell it on shock alone, and then somehow Sal Mineo got into the fold. I think because he sort of was on the ropes a little bit. He was being chased by gay rumors in the tabloids. He had grown out of his sort of switchblade kid persona. He was this baby-faced Plato in Rebel Without Cause and Dino and some of these JD or sort of delinquent movies, and ended up as Tonto and Exodus and all that stuff.
Which was just recent, and he had got Oscar nominated. No, he was Oscar nominated for Giant, and where he played a Hispanic kid.
For Exodus.
For
Yes,
Exodus,
for Exodus.
and Giant, right?
No, not John.
But what was the other Oscar nomination? There were two. Rebel?
Rebel, yeah.
Was it for Rebel?
I think so.
Yeah.
Definitely Exodus, though.
Foster Hirsch, was it for Rebel?
Whatever it was,
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
not. He was struggling at the time. He couldn't get a role. I think it's that a lot of young, teen actors, start growing up, and it becomes difficult. That period for some time is very difficult, and he'd kind of grown out of his baby face, and Joe offered him this role, and then I think he populated him. I think because he got Sal Mineo, and apparently when the phone rang for Sal Mineo, he was out of work. He didn't tell them, but that no one was calling, and so he took this, and he said it kind of permanently ruined his career to put him on the weirdo list. He was on the ropes, but it's a great character.
Didn't have Robert De Niro.
It really didn't. And come on, can we just, him in that jacket, walking, with his hands in his pockets through Times Square? I mean, these are essential images. I'm convinced, and I know that I know Scorsese is a fan of this movie. I can't imagine Paul Schrader is not a fan of this movie.
There's another taxi driver connection.
Uh-huh.
The DP is Joe Bruins, who had shot some great film noir, Odds Against Tomorrow with Harry Belafonte, another New York location.
Oh, a great
movie.
DP.
And then he also did Edge of the City, another JD movie.
Wind Across the Everglades.
Yeah.
The Flipper. He shot.
But the assistant cameraman is who? And
The assistant cameraman's Michael Chapman.
who shot
Taxi Driver, yes.
And Raging Bull.
And Raging
So
Bull.
there's an amazing connection.
Yeah, I mean,
There's also Joe Bruce's
the thing that I
son-in-law.
really noticed watching it this time, which is interesting, was the just some of the just how sophisticated some of the lighting was. And in that NPR Terry Gross interview that you booked for my grandfather in 1996, promoting this film forum run that you guys did, he talks about Joseph Brennan. He was this world-class DP, cinematographer, and a painter. And so there really is a painterly touch to this. But thinking about this, just some of the soft lighting stuff that's going on. I know a lot of that is the Vaseline on the lens, camera trick, which they employ over and over, both to sort of fetishize paper pornography and paper, and dirty paperbacks, and these sexual, flashbacks.
Oddly, they didn't use it for Juliet Prowse's undressing scenes.
That's true.
There's totally unerotic her scenes.
It's more for this through the Sal Mineo character's eyes, I guess,
Yeah.
for the most part. But he had this. He is sort of famous in the country music world. My grandfather was a huge. Even there's a Bronx Jew with a
he's the
real
only
ear
Bronx Jew,
for country twang, and it was Johnny Cash's producer all through the '70s. They called each other the other JC. We have one of his Martin guitars.
There's
and he
a,
gifted
the
my
third
grandfather.
JC, yeah.
Yes. There's a big syringe inside the pig case.
Your grandfather's the only Jewish kid from the Bronx in the
Yes.
Country Music Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But he was famous for kind of classing up country music and television, and the television specials and the variety shows in the '70s, mainly with the Johnny Cash show, for these soft lighting techniques that he used on that show. It's really sophisticated, interesting lighting. So I was really watching this movie and it's like, some of the staging maybe I did differently, although there's brilliant filmmaking in this movie and really brilliant camera work. But I was just kind of like astounded by some of the lighting stuff.
He probably helped popularize country music for a bigger audience.
Definitely, but that's what it was for the cosmopolitan audience. The Johnny Cash show absolutely raised it from just that Grand Ole Opry, certainly Hee Haw at the time or something, although he was very amused by it.
But one of your grandfather's greatest accomplishments, we have a film clip. Noel, are you there?
Okay, he co-created.
Well, let's
just start.
see
Yeah.
it. Let's see
Co-created
it.
the $64,000 question.
Here's Joe Cates himself telling his story.
That you need it especially, but if you'd like to, like you have to, as Bevlon's category for it, which do you think like
To present the initial questions in a dramatic way, producer Joe Cates placed an IBM sorting machine on stage. It gave the illusion that there was a random selection of questions, when in fact, all the cards were identical.
doesn't matter what button you pressed. They were all on one line, and they just served to distribute all the cards, and stagehand behind lit up the box. So questions came from the IBM machine. When we got up to $8,000 or $4,000, we wanted to make a change. One of the changes was obvious. Instead of going from stage left to the IBM machine, let's go to stage right, and let's have somebody produce out of a safe. And out of that evolved a banker who would have two guards. Kind of funny when you think about it, two guards on stage with guns. The questions on which I'm about to break the seal have been carefully guarded in the lock safe deposit vaults of Manufacturers Trust Company, New York. Manufacturers Trust Company certifies that these envelopes were received directly from the editors, and that no one has had access to their contents. Not Mr. March, not even I.
The most memorable innovation was the isolation booth. It prevented contestants from hearing answers from the audience, and it became the single most dramatic symbol of the quiz shows. Again, the idea came from radio.
Now, along the way, and it happened quite by accident, there was a radio announce booth. In a radio studio, they would sometimes isolate the announcer by putting him in a little booth, just barely enough room for him and a microphone. And I set up that booth, and then when a contestant got to a big money question, I put him into the booth, and that would have added drama.
Jimmy and Sue, Joyce?
Yes, I can.
Ready for your $16,000 question.
Okay.
May I have it, please?
Now, of course, the announcer's box, the box used on finally the one that was built and designed for $64,000 question, was not soundproof. It was almost impossible soundproof. So they had to feed in a little music. The music would block out anything that the audience said. We used a seat the people related to the contestants in a special pre-lit area. We would shoot close-ups of the mother or the son or the father. And the close-up literally was from the bottom lip to the eyes. It was an incredible reaction. People were moved. It was a very exciting program.
I mean, you can see his particular flair. He had this kind of presentational genius. He did all this total showman, and understood how to, just the humor and this sort of almost wry dramatics of it.
We should make it clear that he was not involved in
the
quiz show
teddy bear.
scandals.
He was gone by the time the quiz show scandals. But
However,
he'd set up our television system to do all that stuff, to cheat and to tell people this is reality. You know, that he's the reason why we were able to fake the moon landing. For God's sake, that's not funny.
He was not above putting a fast one over on the audience with the fake computers. Okay, but you could see that he was always looking for an angle.
Yeah,
And
I
all the-
think at that time he was over at NBC at that point, bringing Bob and Ray over from NBC radio to television.
Right.
But yeah.
So.
But you can see in that clip, I really liked it. I almost wanted to play it before the film, just because you can really see his humor. And he was brilliant at this presentational stuff. You know, he discovered David Copperfield in the '70s, who just came into his office.
He was big into magic and country music. He had all sorts of.
I don't know where his magic interest began, but it certainly, the first magic stuff that he was producing was with David Copperfield, who was David Cocken, and came into his office and said, "Well, my name is David Copperfield." He said, "Like hell you are," because his famous book, But he overnight essentially made Copperfield a star, put him on the NBC upfronts. It was going to be called the Magic of ABC, and it was David Copperfield, this young Jewish. No one had ever. They were able to sell it on the name alone, that famous name, and he got, I think, tied to underwrite. Basically the efforts of him introducing whatever the fall lineup or whatever. Here's Donnie and Marie Osmond and Rerun, and incorporating them in magic tricks and explaining what the shows would be. But he got untied to underwrite it. Same with the Brooklyn Candy Company or Comic Candy Company or whatever. Tied makes your clothes disappear. Makes your stains disappear. Was the sort of hook there. Like he was just, and these other presentational thing, like for the Copperfield show. Then they went on and did a television show with him in the '70s, and he'd start the show cold with a black curtain behind him. It would be Orson Welles or someone recognizable. Jason Robards would introduce what you're about to see. This young man is incredible, and one of the world's greatest, magical entertainers, the world has ever seen, and slowly zooming in on their face. He had this brilliance about, I guess, presentation and this showmanship.
They learned so much in early television so quickly how to do it. I mean, from very primitive times.
And he
by
was
the
there
early
at the
50s,
beginning in
they were
47.
moving live cameras all over the studio and wires.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. So let's talk about who killed Teddy Bear.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good idea.
He didn't set out to make a landmark gay movie. He didn't say, hey, let's make a landmark gay movie. It was not, but he was setting out to make an exploitation movie. And the idea came from a writer I'd never heard of, but who has a very interesting career.
Arnold Drake.
Arnold Drake. Tell us about quickly.
Okay, quickly, Arnold Drake, who wrote it, the son of Irvine Drake. Who,
Irvine Drake.
Yes. Do you know who that is?
No.
Okay. Well, Irvine Drake wrote the music to her first Roman, which was a Leslie Uggams musical, and he did one.
What
he wrote
Makes Sammy Run?
Well, yes, One
that's
Makes
right.
Sammy Run, which was
That's-
also a Joe
yeah,
Cates
yeah.
Broadway production.
Right.
And he was on Broadway and television. He was a producer in the '60s, and which actually, in the film, I didn't catch it until this time. She's going into the behind the stage door of
I
What
think that
Makes
was an
Sammy
in
Run.
joke probably on 54th Street
And it's a
Theater.
location he had access to. I mean, all the street stuff is stolen. All the stuff in Times
There
Square
was-
is
this was
stolen.
a year
That
before-
running in the street at the end, apparently Michael Chapman, or I don't think it was Joseph Brun, I think it was Chapman, was almost killed. You can see Sal Mineo have to improvise with that cab that almost kills him. So he jumps over that fence.
Well, this was done on the cusp. I mean, this was the last film made like that, because the next year Lindsay started The Office for film.
Mm-hmm.
So this was done totally guerrilla style.
Completely.
All the cameras are hidden. Salminio running down 42nd Street, they must have, like in Naked City has a similar shot on Delancey Street. There's a camera hidden in a van or a car, and it's following him on 42nd Street. And there's a great story about filming the last shot in Times Square, which was done around 4 in the morning.
Mhm.
He's being chased by cops.
Right.
And there are two cabs. Do you remember the story?
You tell it.
Well, I don't remember it so well.
I mean, I sort of told it. I mean,
Did you?
just that Chapman was nearly killed.
No, but the fact that there were two cab drivers who thought he was really a criminal.
A criminal,
on the
yes.
run.
And they were honking and trying to do their part, I guess, when
If
they
you-
swerved
Well,
in.
if you look closely in the shot, one cab gets right in front of Salminio, and he could have killed him.
Yeah.
I think he would have been killed, Salminio, not Michael Chapman.
I think maybe the both of them were. I mean, what they were doing was incredibly dangerous, even for 4 in the morning. I can imagine. But I'm pretty sure that, I mean, I don't know if they even had, I wonder if, they must have had permission to shoot in the adult bookstore, but I wonder how much it was dressed.
Well,
I wonder how much the art department really, like, it kind of, all the Times Square stuff feels pretty organic and pretty, I mean, well, you would know better than I.
I remember that
You
time.
remember that time.
You know, that
era.
Times Square was still around. A lot of those places till the early 2000s, you know, Castro's convertible showroom on the north side of Times Square, Tad's Steaks,
Yeah.
Fascination, they were all around until what,
Fascination
early,
game,
yeah, early 2000s. It was still recognizable from there, and then now it's totally unrecognizable.
Yeah, and it's still recognizable.
Now it looks like Blade
Hello?
Runner.
Hello?
Yeah.
That guy. You're a
Castro,
mass.
born in 1990, Castro.
1996,
Castro?
well, that's recent for me. That was it's only 6 years before we revived the movie.
Did you catch Fascination?
Yes, I did, yeah.
In there,
Also,
because that's in Taxi Driver at the beginning. You can see it.
This movie opened at Loews Victoria in Times Square, right next door to Loews Astor, which you could see in the theater. Did anybody notice what was on the marquee? I could rewind it, you know.
What?
Kiss Me Stupid with,
Oh.
yeah. And you could go to the Times Machine, their archive, it was started shooting in January 1965. Look up a paper from January 1965 and you'll see everything that's in that movie in advertising.
Now,
Any Wednesday with Sandy Dennis was on Broadway.
I caught that.
Yeah.
But tell me, how did you stumble upon this movie? You're
Well,
responsible for its revival.
Actually,
in
let's
96, where
look
my
at some
grandfather's boat.
pictures.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah. This was our calendar, 1996. It was actually brought to me by a guy named Mike Thomas, who was a big fan of this. He was the
I love
co-founder
Mike
of.
Thomas, yeah.
Yeah, he does a
Strands.
great interview on the Blu-ray of this. Oh, there's a Blu-ray on this? I shouldn't-
And Mike Thomas made a pretty tawdry movie called The Meat Rack in 1970 about a bisexual
Pure smut, yes,
hustler.
yeah.
Yeah, and there's some teddy bear.
So Mike
homages.
was the co-founder of Strand Releasing, which still is, it's primarily they specialize in gay themed movies. And he brought me this, but this was in the wake of a huge success that we had, Mike Thomas and I here, with Faster Pussycat Kill Kill.
Yes, he
And
was
that's-
distributed working with Russ Meyer, and
Right.
it was booking him on that big Faster Pussycat reboot, and got him on Conan and all this stuff.
And he brought me this film, and we had a look at it in 35 millimeter, and I flipped, mostly because of all the taboos that it broke. Amazing. I mean, my jaw was dropping like continually, but also the location stuff. I'm a huge fan of New York locations. It reminded me partly of Sweet Smell of Success, the glistening. So we wrote my friend Mike Jack and I wrote this blurb, and
You're not going to read the whole
No,
thing.
no,
right?
just the part that I
beginning?
liked, the beginning.
Yeah,
Because
sport of Hollywood taboos,
Well, except-
voyeurism, pornography, masturbation, incest, child abuse, transvestitism, that's debatable, lesbianism, and
Wait a minute, we decided there's a cross-dresser in the police.
In the
The
police
reason I
department.
brought it
You're
up,
right.
because when we recycled this blurb, I wanted to check that everything was there.
You forgot silk stocking fetishes. You forgot. Well,
Well,
now we've added
well,
necrophilia.
It's in the age of the internet, we can add it on Monday. Okay. But also, we wrote the most explicit rape sequence ever filmed, and actually it may not have been Foster Hirsch, author of 50 from the 50s, is in the audience. Little applause here.
Yeah.
Foster, don't you think the rape scene at the beginning of Something Wild is as brutal as this scene?
Carol Baker.
Carol Baker
Yes.
by Jack Garfien. What year was that?
62.
61. Yeah,
I watched that first in this theater about
yeah, we had Jack
almost 20
Garfien
years
here.
ago.
Thanks to Foster Hirsch. Okay, next. Next. Oh, lights down. Oh,
There is Bronx born
this
filmmaker.
is
producer
Central
Joe-
Park
Joe
Zoo.
Cates at the. Oh, I thought it's the Bronx Zoo.
No, this is the Central Park Zoo. Admission 10 cents.
I was gonna
Did
say
you
the
notice
Bronx
that?
Zoo.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, that's
the Central Park Zoo.
Yeah.
sorry. That's the one I grew up with. So I
And
know that,
you,
especially
can you recognize anybody else? There's a goat there on the right.
Do you know that goat? I don't. Is it a famous goat?
Next, I love this, the clapboard.
Yeah.
Cameraman Brun,
Brun.
Joseph Brun. It says knife.
I think it's Brun.
Brun, yeah.
He calls him Brun in
Brun,
that
Brun.
Terry Gross interview. John.
Okay, now I'm gonna astonish you, Owen.
No, you know what's also amazing?
What?
So they're shooting. Does that say January 26th?
Well,
If you go to YouTube,
yeah.
And I imagine you will, as we all do, you can see in that January, I believe, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's that January, Sal Mineo on Shindig doing a couple of his teen records at the time, you know,
For a guy who says he can't.
doing his dance.
Yeah, he can't dance, he's pretty damn
He's
good.
pretty damn good.
And Julia
And he's-
Krause does a fantastic fruit, don't you think?
What is that dance? Tell me
It's
a
the
little bit.
fruit.
Can you do it from? Yeah.
You don't know the fruit?
I know the twist.
The
I know the
Watusi?
Hucklebuck,
They're
the
doing them all.
Watusi, the swim is featured in here. You know, it's a
But-
nice. By the way, that's a really
Yeah.
pleasant nightclub. I wanted to tie in. You know.
Wait a minute, the disco is the cheesiest discotheque I've ever seen in a
Yes,
movie.
but you have it's first of all it's not segregated, which was cool.
That's true.
For 60, that's pretty nice.
All right, okay, I'm gonna show you something that's gonna astound you.
Yeah.
Lights down, Noel. Next one. Here's a photo you've never seen. Okay, this was sent to me this evening by email. That's Joe Cates in the middle. Do you know the guy on the right? No, on the right.
Right.
Does anybody? I don't think anyone's gonna know who this
This is a
is.
$64,000 question. ladies.
His name is Joshua White. And Joshua
Joshua White, the light shows, Joshua.
Joshua-
You're joking.
Josh White sent me this tonight. He saw the review in the Times.
Josh White worked on Who Killed Teddy.
He was the associate producer. He's in the credits.
That Josh White though.
He created Joshua Light Show, the #1 light show. He did all the acts. Grateful Dead. He did the psychedelics in
Velvet
Midnight
Underground.
Friggin' Cowboy.
Yeah.
Josh White, and he was supposed to come tonight, but we'll do another.
They did it. He revived it in Anthology Film Archives many years ago with Gary Panter. They did one of these weird light shows.
We did
That's
that.
this is astonishing.
Well, that's Josh White on the right. It was the first film he ever worked on.
Let's see who else is-
So we'll send you that.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. What
Did
else?
we cover enough here?
I think everyone.
There's only one guy left. Any parting words about this movie? Oh, the music.
Oh, the music, the records were done by, this is just some nice East Coast New York production history. Charlie Colello, who did the proper score, the sort of like jazzy kind of, or whatever you want to call that, orchestral score. Rita Dyson sang the theme song, although Leslie Uggams put out it on Atlantic, a
It was
version of his
covered.
record.
It
It
was
was
a-
someone he worked with a lot, Joe. And it was covered by her.
Yeah.
And but the discotheque songs were all fake pop records by Al Cash and Bob Gaudio. Now Al Cash, Bob Gaudio, and Charlie Colello are besides Bob Crew were the men behind the Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons sound. So
Is that
you can
right?
hear it in those records, the loud
They
drums
started in the Brill Building. These guys.
Yes, exactly. These are old Brill Building guys. I don't know how if Joe knew, maybe they did stings for television or
I never heard of Al Kashi, but he won 2 Oscars. He wrote The Morning After. And
Yes.
he wrote the theme for the Poseidon.
And he's singing on all those records, and he's speeding up and slowing down.
And
And
then
I
they-
interviewed Charlie Colello about this. He said they mixed the sound at the records in Rome, and he did visit the set or something. He was like, all I remember is Sal Mineo with a scarf down to his ass. I thought perhaps he was fruity, something like that. But I wasn't sure, you know.
And Rita Dyson's not credited. She's
No.
And you just
No
found
credit.
out her name the other day, right?
Well, yeah, I'd seen her name. There was a big debate for a long time about who sang the Who Killed Teddy Bear theme. They thought it was Joni Somers, the Pepsi girl. There was a list of Elkie, a bunch of names. Yeah, there were a bunch of names, but
Swedish,
yes.
it's Swedish accent. I
I
think they left her off because they wanted you to think it was Shirley Bassey.
think that
Shirley Bassey was
right.
incredibly hot in 1965.
I mean, we have
Bonzo.
Julie, you know, Crispin Glover's father, Bruce Glover, has a couple of shots. in
Dan
the scene.
Travanti.
Rex Everhart, the character actor who, you know,
But
he's
Dan
the guy who
Travanti
says,
was actually-
"Let me buy you a Frankfurter." You know, it's the best pickup line. You guys are going to go use it tonight. And jeez, what else? There's oh well, I mean, Julia Prowse was Sinatra's fiance for a second.
And she also went with
Was a
Elvis.
great dancer. She went with Elvis.
She did not have a
So-
big movie career.
No, I imagine though at this point though, because the Elvis movies were a couple of years before that. I imagine at this point it's like she's Sinatra's girl, so it's like profiting off. Like you're probably seeing her in the in magazines and stuff at that time and out and about. So they're profiting off that. Perhaps.
She was
So.
huge presence on television when I was growing up, on Hollywood Palace, on Ed Sullivan.
There you go.
Fantastic. And she's great in this, but she was a real dynamite.
Great dancer, and actually she
Yeah.
had an act. This is completely ridiculous, but Jan Murray and her would do Atlantic City in the '70s together. They were a pair. Or
Okay, I
they-
want you to go on
double bill.
YouTube and check out Jan Murray on the Boom Boom episode of Car 54, Where Are You? And that's where we'll leave it
I'm a
today.
huge Car 54 fan.
Look at the Jan Murray episode, it's one of the funniest.
I'm a big
You'll
Tootie
see
guy,
why he's
yeah.
not just a quiz show host.
Remember, what about hosting the Chabad telethon?
Okay.
Well, that's a whole Jewish evening. We're gonna
That's a
do.
whole other thing. That's a whole other bag.
When was that?
Oh, for years and years and years.
That was Jan
With-
Murray's
with-
gig?
With Robert Clary in that?
And Robert Dylan.
He wished, he probably, if he were here, he'd wish you'd forgotten those.
That's why
It's
we
late
have the
period
best
stuff.
audiences in the world.
But we really do.
Stuff
I
like
mean,
this.
yeah.
Well,
But
thanks.
the last thing I want to say is
Go
that
ahead.
when Joe did this, spoke at this very theater, possibly this very theater, but in Film Forum in '96, I remember him saying that, this is a perverted movie. It's a weird movie, and you're all a little weird, or something like that.
I have one other memory
Yeah.
that I'm going to share.
Sure.
I got Elaine Stritch,
Yeah.
booked into a gay disco as publicity.
Yeah.
And Michael Mustin with the Village Voice wrote about it. You got to look that up.
Okay, well.
All right. Thanks so much for coming.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. What a great argument.